People probably described you as the mature one, the child who understood things too early, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one adults could rely on. While other kids played loudly, you watched quietly. While other children asked for help, you tried not to need any. And everyone praised it. They said you were responsible, wise for your age, different in a good way. But years later, something feels strange. You struggle to relax. You feel responsible for everyone's emotions. And sometimes you don't even know what you feel. The question is subtle but important. What actually happens inside the brain when a child learns to become emotionally mature too early? Problem Deep Dive. Imagine a child sitting at the dinner table. A parent sighs heavily after work. Another parent seems frustrated. No one says anything directly, but the child feels the tension in the room. Not with logic, with instinct. Children are biologically wired to monitor their environment for emotional safety. From a developmental psychology perspective, the brain constantly asks a silent question: is my environment stable? When the emotional climate becomes unpredictable, the child's nervous system begins adapting. Instead of focusing on exploration and curiosity, attention shifts toward monitoring people. The child learns small patterns. A certain tone of voice means frustration. A certain silence means someone is upset. A certain look means conflict might start soon. Over time, the child starts adjusting their own behavior. They stay quiet to avoid making things worse. They comfort others when emotions rise. They try to keep the emotional balance of the room. Psychologists sometimes call this pattern early emotional responsibility. And from the outside, it looks impressive. Teachers see a calm and disciplined student. Relatives notice how grown up the child seems. But internally, something very different is happening. Instead of building a sense of personal identity, the brain begins building a monitoring system. The child learns to read people better than they read themselves, which creates a strange long-term effect. You become extremely skilled at understanding others while slowly losing clarity about your own emotional world. But why would the brain choose this strategy? To understand that, we have to look deeper into how the nervous system protects itself. Reframe. It's easy to assume something went wrong, but the brain rarely makes random mistakes. Most behaviors are adaptive responses to an environment. In other words, the mind asks a simple survival question: what behavior increases my chances of staying connected and safe? For children, connection with caregivers is essential. Without emotional connection, the nervous system experiences stress and threat. So when a child notices that stability in the household depends on emotional balance, the brain forms a strategy. Instead of expressing needs, the child reduces them. Instead of seeking comfort, the child provides it. This adaptation often produces what psychologists describe as the mature child pattern. The child becomes reliable, thoughtful, and emotionally controlled. But underneath that maturity is something more complex. The brain is learning that their role is to stabilize others. And once that mental model forms, it tends to stay active long after childhood ends. Which raises a deeper question. How does this early adaptation actually shape the brain? Psychological mechanism. When a child consistently monitors emotional tension, the nervous system becomes highly sensitive to social signals. This process is closely linked to a system in the brain called the amygdala, The amygdala acts like an internal alarm system. Its job is to detect potential threats and prepare the body to respond. In unstable emotional environments, the amygdala begins activating more frequently, not just during serious conflict, but during subtle signals: a raised voice, a disappointed tone, a quiet pause in conversation. Over time, the brain becomes trained to detect these signals quickly. Think of it like installing a high-sensitivity smoke detector. In a normal system, the alarm activates during large fires. But in a highly sensitive system, the alarm activates even when someone burns toast. This heightened awareness creates what psychologists call hypervigilance. The brain constantly scans the environment for emotional danger. Meanwhile, another brain region, the prefrontal cortex, starts predicting outcomes. You learn to anticipate reactions before they happen. You replay conversations. You imagine how someone might interpret your words. You adjust your behavior to prevent tension before it appears. From the outside, this looks like emotional intelligence, and in many ways it is. But it also creates a hidden cost, because the nervous system never truly stops scanning, even in calm situations, even in healthy relationships. Which explains why many mature children grow into adults who feel responsible for things that were never theirs to manage. But the story doesn't end there, because the brain is capable of something remarkable. It can learn new patterns. The question is, how? Practical framework. Healing this pattern isn't about abandoning empathy. Empathy is not the problem. The challenge is redefining responsibility. Here are 4 principles grounded in psychology that gradually retrain the brain. 1. Notice the monitoring habit. The first step is recognizing how often your mind scans the emotional environment. For example, you walk into a room and instantly check everyone's mood. You notice if someone sounds slightly irritated. You analyze silence in conversations. This happens automatically because the brain built a habit loop around emotional monitoring. In behavioral psychology, awareness activates the prefrontal cortex, which helps interrupt automatic responses. So the goal is not to stop the habit immediately. The goal is simply to notice it. You might think, "I'm scanning the room again." That moment of awareness begins weakening the automatic loop. 2. Separate empathy from control. Children who grow up being the mature one often merge 2 psychological processes: empathy and responsibility. Empathy allows you to understand someone's emotions. Responsibility means you must fix them. But these 2 systems don't actually need to be connected. In healthy relationships, people share emotions without expecting others to regulate them. For example, a friend complains about a difficult day. Instead of solving the situation, you simply listen. You acknowledge their feelings, but you don't take ownership of their emotional outcome. This teaches the brain a new rule. Understanding someone's feelings does not mean managing them. 3. Allow small imperfections in relationships. Another hidden belief in mature children is that emotional harmony must always be maintained. But relationship psychology shows that healthy relationships tolerate small conflicts. When the brain experiences disagreement that doesn't destroy connection, it learns something new. These moments are called corrective emotional experiences. For example, you say no to a request. Someone feels mildly disappointed, but the relationship continues normally. Your brain records new evidence. Conflict does not equal rejection. And slowly, the nervous system becomes less reactive. 4. Rebuild internal awareness. One of the quiet effects of being the mature child is that attention flows outward. You track everyone else's emotions, but your own internal signals become harder to read. Rebuilding internal awareness is essential. Simple reflective questions help restore this connection. What am I feeling right now? What do I actually want in this situation? At first, these questions may feel unfamiliar, but repeated attention strengthens neural networks involved in self-awareness, particularly in the medial prefrontal cortex.